What is a dirty little secret about an industry that you have worked in that people outside the industry really should know? A lot of times, when you request modifications to your food in a restaurant, the cooks are often making fun of you or becoming irrationally angry. Nursing homes somehow always know when they are going to be visited by the state. They have plenty of time to get their shit together, overstaffed for days. The administrators and office people will actually work on the floor that would never do otherwise. Things are great until the moment the state reps leave, then you're back to being understaffed and overworked. It's a common complaint, but people are absolutely not getting the care they need. I don't know if it's a dirty secret as much as common sense when you think about it, but having worked in a warehouse that stores beer cans, I'd say that you should wash the top of any can you drink from, as it may have been sat on, climbed on, touched by filthy hands, and had mice run across it, and if nothing else was probably covered in layers of dust. Got an interesting one for you. The New York Times bestseller list is curated advertising. Yup. While it is based on sales, there are some nifty little loopholes left in the list to allow publishers to choose what gets on the list. Here's how it works. What shows up on the list is the top sellers from set locations in a period of time, right? So a publisher comes out with a book and they want it to go right to the list on day one. So they call the seller and place an order in advance to buy all the books that seller has that they haven't even shipped out yet. The seller takes the money and all those books are now sold. So they need more books to sell. So they contact the publisher, who agrees to sell them more stock, which happens to be the stock they just bought back. The publisher then calls the seller and buys the stock again. The seller calls the publisher and orders more. Repeat until you've got the numbers you need, which you know, since the big publishers swap info freely, so that everyone knows how many sales will take what spot on the list. You can sell 30,000 books this way, while only having 2,000 printed. The whole time the stock sits in a single place. There's no rule against this. After all, the publisher does pay the seller each time. 50% of that money comes back to them, however, so it's basically low-cost advertising. And that's how you get a book on the NYT bestseller list. But only if you're with a big publisher. In the last few years, indie and self-pub books like The Martian started getting on the list, both through legit sales and the creators using the same system. So the NYT restricted the list. You're only qualified for it if you're one of the big publishers now. And now you know. Paramedics cannot refuse to transport a patient. If you hurt your knee 8 days ago and want to go, we have to take you. If you call 911. We are also likely the only ambulance in your area, and if someone has a real emergency, then you will likely have to wait 5 to 10 plus more minutes in the city, 20 to 30 plus minutes in a rural county, to get the help you need to your location. We have been unable to save a lot of people because of someone with a grossly non-emergent issue has taken an ambulance out of service in an area. Some instances I've had, I just feel bad. Cut finger on an open can lid. Bed bugs. I threw up once. Bug crawled in my ear. I just want to get checked out is a very popular one. Police pepper sprayed my baby. Boyfriend just got arrested. And baby is happy and giggling on the couch. Wait at the ER was too long. So they called 911 in the parking lot of a hospital to go to another ER. And so on. Former yacht builder here. I don't speak for every company, but please do some digging around if you're in the market. We sold $500,000 boats that we wouldn't trust to use with our own loved ones. A lot of the people who are working on them knew nothing about how to actually use the boat, and as a result a lot of dumb decisions were made that negatively affected the end user experience. One of our boats had to be abandoned at sea while being delivered. Another boat had a 4-inch difference in where the water line was on each of the two hulls. Must have been a bitch to steer. The chemical waste we produced was discarded illegally, and illegal immigrants were forced to undertake huge risks without knowing the true danger of their assigned tasks. I worked for a brief time, summer job, for a kosher meat company, but also knew people who were high up in the company. How I landed my summer job. The company had been independent and paid the local kosher certification board a fee to certify their product. They got bought by an international conglomerate and this organization suddenly wanted jack up the fee by some insane amount for the same work, basically trying to extort the company since they thought it now had deeper pockets. since 95% plus of their customers didn't even actually keep kosher, but bought the product simply because they viewed kosher as higher quality product. They went out and hired some independent rabbis to do the certification of their product. It then became all political for those who did keep kosher, and some wouldn't buy the brand because it didn't have the right kosher mark, even though nothing changed except for rabbis doing the certification, and whether they were doing so as part of a larger organization. This was a long time ago, but chocolate manufacture. Chocolate is made by mixing cocoa, sugar and fat. The first two ingredients arrive as dry ingredients, but the fat arrives in fat tankers. The fat in the fat tankers is warmed to ensure it remains liquid in transit. One of my jobs was to take a sample of the fat from arriving tankers and see if there were any bits floating around in it. This involved going outside, pouring warm fat into a clear plastic bag straight out of a tanker, and looking at it in the sunlight. If all was okay, then the tanker was hooked up to an inlet into the factory. The ground under the inlet was caked with thick off-white slabs of solidified fat, which nobody ever seemed to clear up. On top of that, I spent time in the lab testing batches of chocolate for various unpleasant microorganisms, including salmonella. I eat a lot less chocolate now. I work in an academic office for a graduate program at a major US public university. When you fill out an application to our program, you are competing for funding, not a spot in the program. I think of the 550 applications we got last year, we only outright rejected 30 to 50 people. And a lot of those had incomplete applications, or had clearly applied to the wrong school. However, we only offered funding, full or partial, to 200 applicants. The logic is, we fund the best applicants, to ensure our program can get the best students. Anyone else who wants to enter can, but they have to pay full price, or getting funding from somewhere else. That being said, if you apply to our program and get in, but don't get immediately offered funding, you should email our financial aid department and ask if we have any money to offer. Sometimes students who get funding still decide not to come to the school, so then the money that would have gone to them goes to other students. Usually, we distribute on a need basis at this point in the application process. Worst that will happen is that we will tell you no. Asking does not affect your application or position in the program. We also have funding opportunities that aren't automatically given, but that you can apply for. We post them online and send out email reminders. Not funding related but important, our career services are available to alumni of our program. Just email and make an appointment with our career advisor. We offer cover letter and resume help, as well as access to our internal job board postings that are usually only for students. It doesn't matter how long ago you graduated. If you are an alumni, we will try and help you. A certain well-known animal rights organizations not only advocates euthanizing shelter animals, they actively euthanize animals themselves. They investigate cases of animal cruelty and occasionally would take possession of the animals, and almost always kill them, regardless of their health or age. It gets worse. They also had a program to capture and kill feral cats, although they would kill any cat they caught that wasn't wearing a collar. Even if that cat was acting like a pet and not a scared wild animal, you can usually tell if a cat is a pet or feral if you know what to look for. Their reasoning was that the owners shouldn't let their cats outside in the first place. They also went to shelters and took a bunch of animals, euthanized them in a van, and dumped their bodies in garbage dumpsters around the area. That one made the news about 13 years ago when I worked there. The worst, though, was the animals that people surrendered to them to save from going into a high-kill shelter. People, usually elderly, who couldn't keep their pets, usually while moving into assisted living, would get this organization to take them. They thought the animals were being given new, wonderful homes. Most of them were killed within days of being surrendered. So, if you want to be part of animal rights groups, or donate money to them, do your research. They advocate for cows and claim that people who use service animals are abusers, but kill hundreds or more dogs and cats every year. I doubt it's specific to the industry I have worked in, and I've fortunately only seen it happen once, but I worked in a restaurant that closes overnight. Number 24-hour dining room or drive-through. So when I showed up at 9 in the morning and the walk-in fridge was weirdly comfortable, about the same temperature as the rest of the store, I learned how this is handled. A call is made to have the fridge fixed/serviced. Despite not having any idea how long the fridge was down and knowing the food within is warm, so milk, cheese, lettuce, everything, it is all sold as normal. None is replaced or thrown out. Now, that might be okay if we could know/prove that the food was at room temp for an acceptable amount of time. However, there was no way to get that information. Might have been sitting there warming up for nearly 12 hours for all we knew. Nobody got sick from it or fake, so I'm not overly concerned, but still.